Hey, Dale here to share again around the scriptures, and this time from Acts chapter 6 and verse 8. And for those that were at Cross Life Helensvale last Sunday, you would have caught James Pictamorlo preaching from Acts chapter 6. And it's the discussion there of what's happening with the widows of the Hellenists, and what's happening with those Jews that had been spread out into the Greek world. And as they come back, they weren't being treated well. And there's this discussion, and it can sound a little bit like semantics, a bit politics, but discussion of what it is that people should be doing in the early church, what their roles are, and that we should encourage each other, that each of us are called in different ways to serve the church, even 2,000 years later. We all have different gifts and talents, and some of us are called to certain things, and we need to honor and respect each other's giftedness and help each other to serve well, not make it hard for each other. And so James shared a little bit about that on Sunday, but in 6 verse 8 of Acts chapter 6, it says, "And Stephen, full of grace and power, was doing great wonders and signs amongst the people." I think it's a great passage because it shows us that Stephen, this incredible man who was appointed to help serve those who needed the food, and so he was a server of the tables and an organizing person. We've given them the name the deacons in the New Testament. That's the translation of those words, those servants. And deacons are, in a sense, ministers, but they're specific ministers in this sense to serve the tables and to do that. And this Stephen, who was clearly a gifted man, he was a man who had been given the Holy Spirit. He came with grace and power, and he was doing great wonders and signs amongst the people. And I just think about the idea of grace and power, and I love the fact that grace is first. Yes, he was doing powerful things. There were wonders, there were signs, but there was grace before the power. And this man, we read about what happens to him, becomes the first major martyr in the church that we read about in the book of Acts. And so it's encouraging to see his faithfulness to God, in his giftedness, that God used him powerfully, and he was being used amongst the people in all these magnificent ways, but grace was at the heart and at the start. And so if you can remember that, grace at the heart and at the start, it was the founding pillar of the power that the Holy Spirit was working through him, and the wonders and the signs that accompanied what he was doing. And we're going to explore what happens at the end of Stephen's speech a little bit further on this coming Sunday. So I encourage you to come along for that. Also, I want to encourage you to come along tonight for our church family barbecue. If you've got the time, from 5:30 p.m. this afternoon, we'll just have a sausage sizzle, a barbecue, and there'll be an opportunity to pack some parcels for our pantry. We've been doing that regularly as a part of these church family barbecues. We make it a bit of a fun game. It's not intensive, it's not difficult, but we're just packing some boxes, and we're doing it for the community that we want to serve. And we want to show grace as we serve them, and we want God's power to be at work in us and in them. So I encourage you to come along for that on this coming Friday, or tonight. Sorry, come along tonight for that. There's going to be a great opportunity to do that then. And I hope to catch you this coming Sunday at Cross Life Helensvale. God bless.